Okay, so for my geometry class here, we're going to be starting on finding the area and perimeter for triangles. So a new shape, we're still doing area and perimeter. We've been doing area and perimeter of squares, rectangles, parallelograms. Now we're mixing in triangles. And I'm going to take from your new yellow worksheet, I'm going to take 3 problems and I'm going to go through these and work these with you. And it's, as you can see up there, it's going to be problems 2, 4, and 6 on your yellow worksheet. So first thing we want to remind ourselves of is the formula for the area of a triangle. And again, in class we'll go over why is this the area. But right now, you know from your formula sheet that we've got the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2, or sometimes we write it 1/2 times base times height. Okay, so if I'm looking at number 2, I've got a triangle there. And one thing we want to keep in mind about that base and the height is that the base and the height are perpendicular. Okay, so we're looking for that 90-degree angle for the base and the height to be perpendicular. So for problem number 2 here, if we're looking for the area, we're looking for base and height, we're looking for that perpendicular, we're looking for that 90 degrees. So there it is right there. So here we've got our height, and here we've got our base. So then for our triangle here, we can put down that the area is going to be the base, which is 61, times the height, which we have is 52.8, and then divided by 2 or multiplied by 1/2. And so that gives us, according to my calculations, 1,610.4, and that would be square yards for our units, or yards squared. There we go, putting that up on the answer box. And then perimeter, as we've always had with perimeter, it's the distance around the outside, so we can add up all 3 sides here. So for our perimeter, we can simply say perimeter is going to equal, let's see, all 3 of those sides are the same on that outer triangle, so it's going to be 61 plus 61 plus 61. Or some of you might be doing a shortcut, 61 times 3, but I get 183, and that would be 183 yards for our perimeter. Okay, remember, don't worry too much about the units, the number's more important. The type here, don't worry too much about that, but what we have is, if you notice, all 3 sides are the same, and if you remember, that is called an equilateral triangle. So that would be the type there. But that I don't think is going to be on your test. So there's number 2, just using that formula for the area. Base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 times the base times the height, should get you the same thing. And then perimeter is still the distance around the outside, adding up all the shapes. Adding up all the sides, excuse me. So here we go with number 4. Again, we have a triangle. Again, they're asking us for the area and the perimeter. So let's start with the area. Remember, I recommend starting with that formula. Here I should probably point out that when we have the B right here in our formula, this B right here, this B right here, that stands for the base. It is not necessarily the same as this B right here. So try not to get confused with that on your test. I don't think it'll be that confusing, but this B in our formula is B for the base. So again, we have this over here. I'm just going to underline this. This relationship that the base and the height are perpendicular. So we want to look for that 90-degree angle, that right angle, that tells us that here H is going to represent our height and A is going to represent our base. So for this triangle, we have a base length of 43 millimeters, or 43 is the number, and our height for H is 73.4. So using our formula there, we would have the area of our triangle would be equal to the length of our base, 43, times the length of our height, 73.4, and then either multiplied by 1/2 or divided by 2. Plug that into the calculator, I get 1,578.1. And then since that is area and we are measuring millimeters, this would be square millimeters. So we can fill that in up here, 1,578.7 square millimeters, or millimeters squared. Perimeter, once again, is just the distance around the outside. Shortcut here is to add up all the sides. Here we want this, what they call B, which they say is 79. So we'd have 79 here, and then our base of 43 So our perimeter, we can add those all up. We can do our 43 for the base plus 79 for the second side plus 79 for the third side. And if we add that all up, my calculator tells me that is 201. And so perimeter of 201, and that's just linear units, 201 millimeters. Okay. So again, perimeter, nothing different there, just adding up all the sides. Again, you may have used a strategy to say that that 79 occurred twice, so you could double it, multiply by 2 as a shortcut if you want to, but otherwise perimeter is just adding up all the side lengths. For the type of the triangle, again, don't worry too much about this, but you might remember from last unit, 2 of these side lengths are the same, and then the third side is different. So when you have 2 side lengths that are the same, we call that an isosceles triangle. And then the last problem I'm going to be doing for this video is problem number 6. So we've got our triangle here, and we're looking for the area for the first thing. So again, start out with that formula: area is base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 times the base times the height. So this one's a little bit different now. So again, we're looking for this, I'll come back over to the number 2, where we talked about the base and height are perpendicular. We want that 90-degree angle to know that one side is the base and one side is the height, or the lengths for base and height. The height is not necessarily a side. So we're looking for that 90-degree angle. There it is on number 6. So here's a little bit different than number 2 and number 4. A represents our base and B represents our height here. Whereas in number 2 and number 4, the height was measured like inside the triangle. The height was not a side length. Here the height is a side length. Okay, so that's something that can happen sometimes, but doesn't have to happen. A lot of the times the height will be measured inside or even sometimes outside the triangle. The height is not necessarily a side length. And again, that's a trick here. But for number 6, the base and the height are both side lengths. So here we've got our base measures 86 inches and our height measures 56 inches. So if we want to calculate the area here, we have the area would be the base of 86 inches multiplied by the height of 56 inches and then divided by 2. And if we punch that into the calculator, my calculator tells me 2,408. So that would be our area there. 2,408, and if we want the units, base and height are measured in inches, so area would be measured in square inches. Okay, once again, perimeter, just add up all the side lengths here. So A, B, and C, we're going to add those all up here. So we've got 86 inches for our base for side length A. We've got 56 inches for side length B, which happens to be the height. And then side length C, they have 102.63. So if we add that all up, the calculators tell me 244.63. Make that a little bit bigger. And since that is just a distance, that would be 244.63 inches. Finally here, the type of shape that we're dealing with. Now you could call this a right triangle, certainly, but if we want to be more specific, like number 2 we said was an equilateral triangle, number 4 we said was an isosceles triangle. So equilateral and isosceles, that is describing the triangle according to its side lengths. Equilateral is all 3 sides are the same. Isosceles, 2 sides are the same. Here, if you notice, all 3 sides are different. None of the sides are the same. So if you remember from last unit, we call it a scalene triangle. So we can be more specific. We can say not only is this a scalene triangle, it's also a right triangle. We can call it a scalene right triangle. So I'm hoping that gives you a good start on this worksheet and finding the area for triangles. Perimeter should be pretty easy, but area, we've got a new formula there. Just keep in mind, again, we want that base and the height to be perpendicular. You're looking for that 90 degrees for your base and your height always. So the height might not be one of the sides. Number 2, the height was not a side of the triangle. Number 4, the height was not a side of the triangle. Number 6, the height was a side of the triangle because it was a right triangle. But yeah, so remember also too, there's other great resources out there. There's what we have on Moodle, Khan Academy, YouTube. Get lots and lots of practice, and I hope to see everybody tomorrow.